Is it mine coming up? Does it? My little screen. I'm not very good technically. I don't even know how to turn this thing on. Oh, does it turn itself on?
Oh, you're speaking through it. I can hear it.
Oh, you can. Is that loud? Oh. They're all going away. Oh, is it? Oh.
Our next talk is WordSmart, Creator Leaders, the best possible start by Blackman.
Hi everyone, my name's Paul Blackman and I'm the founder of WordSmart. And the reason I've got my name up there with all those fancy letters after is not because I'm trying to show off, it's because I want to just mention my background and why I feel what we're doing has a unique approach to what we're doing. So I started off as a primary school teacher and then I became a secondary school guidance counsellor. And then I did another postgraduate qualification where I became a resource teacher of learning behaviour. And my role was to work in schools with students that either weren't behaving well or not learning. And in my experience, both apply. Because if you're not learning, you don't behave well, and vice versa. So, next slide, what is there a thing to do, something here? Oh, which one is this? Sorry. I'm very technically compromised here because I don't know what to push. Which one? Oh, the arrow. This man's coming with something. Have you got something for me, sir? Where is that? That thing? Okay. I'll just go next. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. I don't know if you know what a Luddite is, but that's someone that's very scared of technology. I think I fit that category. Anyway, so our vision is there. I'm not going to insult your intelligence, so I'd like you to read it. I'm not going to read it for you. Okay. Now, there's some key words in there, and the one that I really want to emphasize is passionate. Because people who are passionate have unique ability to actually influence others, but they're also very successful. So our program is a hybrid. It's a mixture. And what we've consciously set out to do is provide a really strong basis for beginner readers, because that's the key thing in my mind to kids developing a positive mindset to what they're doing. If they feel, hey, I can do this, it's great. It doesn't mean if they can't do it that we can't do something about it, but what I'm really keen to do is make sure that their first experience with reading is a positive one that overcomes potential disabilities. And then we go to prolexia. Now, that's not a word. I've made up that word. It's not even in the dictionary yet. Prolexia is the word I made up. Why would we have a deficit-focused approach? Dyslexia. What does that mean? It means difficulty with words. For goodness sake, why do we label them like that? Because I believe every single student has the ability to become prolexic. And when that's in a dictionary and it's common usage, our expectations have a profound effect on the end result. And the last thing is the future. Where are we heading? So we've got some values that we believe are really important. One of our very famous Kiwi, he was Kiwi of the Year actually, this guy Ray Avery, he says this: no one is clever as all of us. And I really believe that the combination creates synergy. Synergy is 1 + 1 = 3. Work that out. The sum of the individual parts is greater than the individual parts. 1 + 1 = 3. So what we've done is we've made a conscious effort to combine ourselves with what we believe are really, really world-class other companies, other providers. And I've got to confess that I've been overwhelmed and confused and excited and inspired by what I've seen. And I'm not saying that the ones we've chosen are any better or worse, but they seem to fit really well with our model. So we've got that. We've got a number of companies that we've chosen because they're well researched, they're backed, and they're getting solid results. We can't cover the whole gambit. We're also really interested in putting our profits back into ongoing development, and we put people before profits. And I think that's a key thing for us, because what we really want to do is help those students who haven't got the means and haven't got the access to the resources that other areas have. And later on, I'll just quickly show you what we're doing in Fiji with a pilot. And the final thing is, we share this vision. We share the vision of making a difference, because it's going to do something to impact the world. And I can't think of a better time in history when we need this to happen. This is an exciting time. It's transformational, and I want to get as many people on board with this as I can. Now, one of the key things we do is change a kid's mindset. If a kid doesn't believe he can do something, how would you be motivated to do it? And we've come across some very, very powerful tools. My background is a guidance counselor. I did therapy. I did all kinds of ways of helping kids change their view of what's happening to them. I studied cognitive behavior therapy. I've done NLP. I've done, look, you name it. And I try to match the thing I've done, but I've put it into our app, into our prolexic part of our program, so it's scalable. There's no point in doing something that relies on me. And I don't want that to be the reason why we're successful. I want to be successful because what we do works and it's scalable. So what we've discovered is that we haven't discovered it, but kids between the ages of 3 to 7 are in a highly suggestible state. Their brainwave frequency is at a theta level, and when you're there, it actually is the same as hypnosis. So the very best time to influence a child is in those years. And that's no surprise. But what I've discovered is that if you do that and you use a way of overcoming those disabilities, or those learning differences, I think it's not a disability. I actually think dyslexia is a gift. So excuse my Freudian slip. Now this is a slide of a process that we use where a woman is asked to change a belief about herself. And it's a very simple one. It's one that's universal to most people. And it's, I'm not good enough. I'm good enough. It's actually stated in the presence, I'm good enough, and it's a negative. 1 year later, that part of the brain is the same words uttered to her, and this is the result. When the brain lights up on, as you probably know, it's picking up through fMRI, the hemoglobin in the blood, and it lights up red. Now that's 1 year later, and it could be 10 years later. My contention is, unless you change that belief, you may as well not even bother. The belief is key to making that progress. It's really important. Now, the other part of it is passions. Does everyone know what stem cells are? So when you put a stem cell in a bone petri dish, that's a mixture that's creating bone, you'll get masses of those stem cells forming bone. If you think of the human body as a massive petri dish, and there's trillions of cells. When we're passionate about what we're doing, what actually happens is that our bodies take on these hormones. It's like, it's exciting. When you're in your passion, you are in your element, and you're actually performing at a level that maximizes your potential. So oxytocin that's the thing where you get it, and when you look in a baby's eyes, it makes you feel good. Vasopressin is a growth hormone. On the other side, we've got the fear hormones. And what they've discovered is that when someone is passionate, it's the same as if you're having a romantic love between someone else. And it ignites them, it makes them achieve way more than they would have if they hadn't found their passions. And I think that's our job as educators, to help them discover that. Because then they want to read anything about that thing, and they read above their level. I've done a lot of work in Māori schools, and all I can tell you is that when you discover their passions, it's like the roof goes off. This is a group that this is not the actual group, but this is a group that I work with at an all Māori school where we put on a play. The deal was that they had to increase their grade levels, and literacy was a key part of that. If they didn't attend class, they couldn't be in the show. And it started off with 2 kids, and then it became bigger than Ben-Hur. At the end of it, there were so many kids wanting to get in there that it was really, really good incentive that they had to go to class and they had to get their literacy up to standard. Better than they were doing before. And that was the expectation. And I'll just quickly explain one more thing about the Māori schools where I worked, which I found, sorry, I'll go back to that one. That's the back. My first day, I was invited onto the stage with the teachers. It was old school, and the principal had a gown on, and he introduced me to the whole assembly. And he said, now, this is Mr. Blackman. He's our new guidance counsellor, and he's going to say a few words. I hadn't got anything prepared, so I just stood up, and I'm quite good at speaking on my feet. And I said, whatever I said. I can't remember a word of it, actually. And then at the end of it, the principal said, now, does anyone want to ask Mr. Blackman a question? Silence. And then he said, anyone want to ask Mr. Blackman a question? And then one boy put his hand up at the back, and he said, I just looked to see, that's the whitest looking black man I've ever seen. And the whole show burst into laugh, and I felt a little bit more comfortable. And now, this is kind of interesting, and I don't think it's confusing, but if it is, please let me know. I once was doing a course in Palo Alto, and at the end of my trip, I had no money left. Now that was on purpose, because this is my early 20s, I was dangerous with credit cards, and I decided the best thing is I've budgeted right down to the last penny, and I'm getting on a plane and going home. Well, as I was about to leave, I'd forgotten one vital thing. Sir, have you got your receipt for your $50 departure tax? I said, no. And she said, well, I'm sorry, you can't leave. I said, hang on. I'm just getting a flight back to Melbourne, and when I get there, sir, you can't leave. No, I thought, begging? No, it wasn't going to work. So I sat down, and I thought, oh, what can I do? And I went through my options. I could go up and ask one, excuse me, sir, I'm just getting a flight to Melbourne. I just wondered if I could get $50 off you. I haven't got paid my departure tax. I couldn't allow myself to do that. And then I thought, maybe I could steal it. I looked around, and I thought, actually, it takes quite a lot of skill to steal something. So I went through an exercise that I now use routinely with every single reader that I work with. If I want something, what will I see? And I thought, what will I see? I thought $50. I thought, nah. If I can get 50, I'm going for a bit more. I'll go for 300. I want $300. What will they hear? I think, oh, what will I hear? Yes, sir, you can board the plane. What will you feel? Well, that was really obvious. Relief. Oh, my God, thank you. Oh, yes. Anyway, I sat there. As soon as I opened my eyes, I saw there was an Air New Zealand flight coming in. Now, if anyone would give me some money, it would be a Kiwi. I'd know someone that they knew or whatever. Anyway, I went down in an elevator, and these people were coming off the flight. And I thought, crikey, that looks like an old mate of mine. And I yelled out to him, because I recognised him by head, these little round glasses. I said, Mike, is that you, mate? And he said, yes, yes. And he said, is that you, Blue? I said, yes, mate, quick, come here. Anyway, he runs over, he trips over a chain, and then we're surrounded by security guards with guns. And I said, look, I'm sorry, I haven't seen it for a few years, and I'm just a bit excited. Anyway, he comes out, and we sit down, and he said, what do you want, mate? And I said, I need some money. Now, he's dressed in a suit, he's with another guy dressed in a suit, and I said, what are you dressed in a suit for? He said, we're going to the government in France, to Paris, to the French government. We're asking for a loan. I'm the financial controller of one of the Pacific Islands. I'm not going to say which Pacific Island because it could get him in trouble. But we're needing a loan to redevelop the island. Okay. He said, what do you want? I said, I just need some money, mate. And then he had a roll of hundreds and fifties. And I stopped at 300. And I got on the flight. Now, how I use that is I ask kids, what will they see? When I ask them what will they see, I ask them, tell me what your reading age is going to be when you finish working with us. What will they hear? And I don't know. I said, well, how about this? I'll hear you reading fluently. They said, what does that mean? I said, well, you'll be reading with nice, smooth reading. You'll be putting expression in. You'll be watching the punctuation. You'll be making sense of it. That's how you'll be reading. And the last thing is, what will they feel? And they say, oh, choice, yeah. Oh, I feel choice. And that's exactly what happens. When they believe they can do it, it works. It's giving them a clear objective, and they start to think, oh, maybe I can. And especially if they're reading something they're passionate about. Where's my thing? Here we go. Right. Now, we have done a pilot in Fiji, and this was August last year. And the pilot was about year one students, taking them from just beginning readers, trying to read, learn to read the really basic like CVC words. That was our goal. And what we did was we set ourselves up to give them, we were there actually for 3 weeks, and every morning, how are we doing for time? Oh my Lord. Okay, I'll quite quick. So this is a really key thing. What we did was we taught them the sounds of the letters with stories, and that's on our app. Now these kids had never been on an app before, and they were so polite and so willing and so absolutely delighted to be part of this. Now, all I can tell you is it works. And what we did was we made up little stories that explain how the letter sounds got their names. So we've got one for every of the first 29 phonemes, and they listened to the stories. Now, what happened was this English isn't their first language, so we got the teachers to explain the stories in Fijian, and then they get them to act it out. Now, there's one about this little fella here. Here's our first story. This little guy. It's about an ant who was really, really sad because his brother got squashed, and he wanted to grow as big as an apple. So he's walking along, and he falls inside this apple. And suddenly, his little legs are flailing up and down. He realizes, hey. And he starts eating it. He says, I think it's working. And suddenly, he realizes his legs are starting to move. And he goes, And that's how the letter sound A got its name. Now, what we do is then we use that to teach them how to do CVC words with cards that have got those icons on them. And they actually do it really fast. And here's our result of that first pilot. Hang on. Have I gone past that one? Hang on. Oh, sorry, I have to go back. I'm getting myself a little confused by this one. Here's what we got. Now, these kids started off just learning letter sounds, and we gave them a test after 8 weeks where they were tested on one of the ones that's a standardized test in our country called the word recognition test. And here's what we got. And this is the high end. These kids, their chronological age was somewhere between 5 and 6. And so 25%, you can see for yourself where they were. And those are the percentages. And what usually happens, it takes them a year to get to that level. So we know it works. And the pilot is then planned to become the model to roll out for Fiji. Now, I'm just about out of time. All right, okay. I can just go. Okay, I'll just go one more. And this one is saying, here we are now. This is only a bit of fun. This is your little tower here. And this one. What we know from the research done by Guinevere Eden at Georgetown University is the part of the brain that's responsible for the shapes of the letters grows. When kids are consciously taught the relationship between the sounds, the bronchus is the part that enunciates sounds and connects that with the shape. And that part of the brain, which is responsible for the sight, it grows. And essentially overcomes the problem, the main problem with dyslexia. And if it's done at an early age, we can use this word, which is repeating what we said. And if we've got one more minute, this is a boy with a reading age of 7, and I use an accelerated reading process. He absolutely loves people, and he was excited by the story, which he couldn't read at all. And what I do is I get him to listen while I read. He doesn't see it, he just listens, and then he reads it. And we do it bit by bit by bit by bit. And the deal is, a bit like the lady before, when he can read this book fluently, it's his. Now, this boy I'm still working with, he has won that book. And I just pick random pages. So now you read that. Orographic mapping, which our brain naturally does, actually works. And he gets a massive confidence boost from that because he's completed that and he's won his book. Now, if we're going to do something useful in terms of measurement, this is one that seconds. Okay, we're done. We're done. Okay. Right. So, any questions? Okay. Has anyone got any questions? Have I got any answers? It's probably more relevant. What? Last slide. Okay. Okay. We've partnered with these guys. This is called Literacy for Kids. Sunshine books are absolutely brilliant. Do you know them? Yeah. Yes, yes. Well, Wendy Pye is a dame. That's the equivalent of a sir, isn't it? Well, we're working really closely with her, and it highlights the phonemes. So the kids, yeah, and he's wagging his finger at me. And the last one is this. This is the future. So we use a test of, we call it invented spelling, and we give them this opportunity to drill that sound, I-double-L. This is just one really small example, and then it writes a story about it. We're finished now, aren't we? Okay. I'm sorry about that. Okay, thanks very much. It's a pleasure.
I love that prolexia. That's really neat. Never heard that. I teach dyslexic students, so